I'm here with Scott Brady with Partners Real Estate and Property Management. And first of all, we're here today because we're talking to real estate brokers, entrepreneurs, people who've been successful in the real estate industry, because we want to know how they got there, what hurdles they had to overcome, where they are at currently, and where they see the real estate business going as a whole. Because the best way to learn and grow is seek advice from people who have done it at a high level. And so without further ado, we're here with Scott Brady with Partners Real Estate and Property Management. Scott, how are you?
I am well. So to clarify, so it's Partners Real Estate Group. You got that one right, but we're Progressive Property Management. So it's two different company names. Yeah.
Blew it on that one for you.
No problem.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I love to hear your story. Obviously you have a pretty successful property management and real estate business and career. Do you mind telling us a little bit about you, what you're currently doing right now and how you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's because I think my story is very standard. It's not that different until I pivoted about, I would say 10 years ago, and then it gets kind of weird. So my story is I'm really old, Colin. You're young, but I'm an old man. And so I got out of college in about 87.
Okay.
Pretty quickly got in the mortgage business. I was a loan agent for back in the day. They had things called savings and loans, and I was a loan agent. And the recession hit 1990, 91, and I pivoted into private banking. I was working downtown and also Beverly Hills. And I discovered after about 5 years of that I hated it. I just didn't like anything about it. I like the idea that the people I was talking to across the way were worth millions of dollars and they own their own business. I said, well, that's what I should do. I should own my own business. So in 97, I don't know what possessed me, but I got into real estate. And I said, I'll build a really cool real estate company. So I got my broker's license. I didn't work for a brand. I immediately started my first real estate company, which ironically was called Progressive Realty back in 98. But I realized if I wasn't a top producer, who's going to come work for me, right? And who's going to work for a guy that hasn't sold real estate? So I said, well, I might as well learn how to do this. So I started really working my brand. I happened to have ended up in a city called Placentia, of all places. And I thought, well, one way to build my brand would be through politics. So I ran for office, and lo and behold, I was elected. And that was 2000. And I was on city council for 8 years. I was mayor for 3. And I rode up like everybody else from 2000 to 2006, just did a lot a
Rode the politic wave, huh? Nice.
Yeah, I helped my brand. And, I was Mr. Placentia, and, it was just really good timing. And so I was selling 60, 70 homes a year. At that point, I had joined forces with another person, which we don't need to talk about. And he was the big guy in Brea. We joined a brand. We joined a Coldwell Banker franchise. We started our own franchise, Coldwell Banker. And we had everything. Escrow was all working, man. It was just good. The title companies were giving us kickbacks like the good old days.
Missed those good old days, huh?
Oh, those are good times. Had a suite at Angel Stadium. And, and I really, to be honest with you, I didn't see the recession coming. I was just so darn busy. I wasn't even looking up. And all of a sudden, obviously starting in 2007 and 8, the recession hit. And I had properties I was building. I was about to start a 10-unit condo complex I was going to build. We had 60 agents. We had overhead. And I just waited too long to pivot. I burned through a lot of money. I got through it, though. So by 2010, we really started kind of pulling through it in the real estate side of things. And really by 2012, I think we're kind of really out of it. But I said, not again. There will be a recession. I don't know when, but I'm not going to be caught this time unprepared. And I looked around what I could do that was, that would be subscription income, that would be, something that I could depend on. And I said, well, property management, that's the answer. And of course I asked around and everybody said, yeah, don't do property management. That's a terrible idea. Go sell more homes, get more realtors, start another
standard model, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, I think I kind of been there, done that. The idea of selling 50 homes again just didn't sound appealing to me. The other thing, I'm like funny, my wife's name's in my name. It's pretty funny. So, and also what I also found, and this is true, I didn't like managing realtors. What I found
Hey,
with
do what you
realtors,
love, right? Like that's
yeah,
the
the
important
sad
thing.
thing about our business is that you make your most money in your lowest producers. And that's changed a lot with some of the business models out there, the 100% models out there. But before that, you made your big splits on the agents who were selling 3 or 4 homes. And you made your small splits on your top agents, but of course they gave you escrows. And the idea of sitting in my office where I am right now, same office I was back in 2004, and having somebody come in and want to chit chat for an hour, it just drove me nuts. I can't do it. I'm just physically not built for small talk. Um, so I didn't want to I didn't want to add 50 agents. I didn't want to sell 50 homes, but I kind of figured, well, property management, that's what I should do. So in 2012, we started Progressive Property Management. And it was a normal property management company to start. We just kind of took the same kind of marketing I did in real estate and applied it to
Right.
property management. Started with 0 doors.
Mm-hmm.
And probably by 2000 and I'll say 16, we had grown it to like 300 doors, and that's pretty good. That's making it pretty good. It's finally not losing money. It's probably
Okay.
almost breaking even. And I made the decision at that time, which in my industries was really controversial, is that I decided I still had some realtors here who kind of stayed with me through the
Mm-hmm.
grim times. And they were doing okay, but they weren't killing it. And I said, well, if I can manage properties, they can manage properties.
Absolutely.
So starting about 5 years ago, so I guess it was more like 2015, 2 or 3 of the agents that were here, we trained them and we taught them property management. And we're on a split like real estate, right?
Right.
We did all the marketing. We're the ones that got them the doors to manage, and we would generate the doors and then sell them those doors to manage. And fast forward now to today, we now have 30 branch managers throughout all of Southern
Wow.
California, from Apple Valley to Temecula, now out to Coachella. We manage over 1,000 residential doors, and we manage now about 300 or 400 association doors,
Wow.
and we're growing that part of the business. So we kind of,
So your total um, H or SFR doors are roughly around 1,000 or
yeah,
plus 1,000. Okay.
about 1,000. Yeah, right at 1,000. We added 90. So now some agents are joining
And
us
that's in
already.
how many years? What's your total year count?
Well, we started in 2000, legally 2012, so in 8 years.
8 years. That's not bad.
Yeah,
Not
but
bad at all.
the way the business works, you get 30 your first year, you get 50 your second year, you get 100. And now we have such a model that we will add this year, or we hope to add about 200 to 300 residential doors this year alone. And how we pitch it to the agents is really, really simple. Back in the day in the 90s, you went to work for a brokerage, and one of the things they gave you were leads. They gave you listings, they gave you
Right.
buyers, and you had maybe a kind of not a great split, but you got guaranteed income. It's kind of the same idea. We give them the doors to manage. They're honest, but we do all the back office. So they're the local boots on the ground. They're the ones dealing with the owner issues and the renewals and the leases and the
You're
tenants.
providing the leads,
We
right?
do the leads. If they do their own, they don't have to pay us for them. And if we generate it, we sell it to them for about 300 or 400 bucks a door. But the goal now is that you're a full service realtor.
Right.
So now you can still buy and sell, help people buy and sell real estate. You can do property management. You can do leasing. You can do association management now for us. And every door you manage is the real goal. If you're
Huh.
managing, our biggest agent is Greg Nowling. I think you know Greg.
Yep.
Greg manages about 100 doors. I would say to Greg, that's 100 future listings. That'd be the goal, that every property you manage is a future listing.
And it's residual income, right?
And well, it's guaranteed residual income. And if
Right.
they decide to leave the business, I'll buy the doors off them. So, Greg, I'll write Greg a check this month for $6,000 for his base management fee. I just closed an escrow. I think you're the title. We just closed an escrow yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting one on the market tomorrow that we managed. I've got another one we managed. We're putting on the market next week. So I'm the first one. I was the beta test, but now
Mm-hmm.
we've proven the model. And so, yeah, it's a way for people to have a career in real estate, because property management is not going away. What we do, and I'll be honest with you, it has to be a fit. It has to be that they understand that, yes, they're going to get stable income. Yes, if you're managing 60 properties, you're going to get, $4,000 a month in income, but you're going to have to work. It's
So
not, yeah.
you've come from a banking history, then into residential standard real estate, which has led you to property management after experiencing some downturns. Now you're geared up. This is what you're meant for. We're in somewhat of a downturn, so to speak, economically.
We're going to have a big downturn. So yeah,
And
property management.
you don't know how big it's going to be, but
Yeah, I got a pretty good idea. So
so this is what
property.
you're geared for, right? This is
There's really three trends for us that are why we'll take out the recession. We'll talk about that. So property management really shines in recessions. You might think, why is that? Well, there's really a few reasons. One is in recessions, the government passes really bad laws, really, really bad laws to protect tenants. So I have no doubt the legislature is going to pass a law that we can't put a judgment on a tenant, or we can't evict a tenant during this virus, or whatever. They're going to pass a bunch of laws that would make it really difficult to self-manage. Here's the beauty of property management. Nobody sells by owner. It's just too hard. It's too difficult. And I might want to pay less, but I'm still not going to sell by owner. We believe, there's no hard and true fact on this, but we believe about 70% of people self-manage. They manage their own rentals. It's a huge number. So in my market area, which is Southern California, you're talking 1 million people self-managing.
crazy.
I'm not competing against the property management company down the street. I don't even, a matter of fact, I'll tell those people how I do my business, because if only 10% of those people decide to stop self-managing, it's 100,000 doors that will need management. So one is bad laws. Two, in recessions, a lot of owners, if prices go down, they say, you know what, if I can't get 700, if you're telling me I'm only going to get 650, I'd rather rent the property and wait till the market comes back, and then I'll sell. So they become sort of accidental landlords, and they don't have the ability to manage their own property. They hire us. I just got a call.
Especially with all the new laws.
Yeah, I just got a call from somebody who had a condo in San Clemente. They can't sell it because they're repiping the whole thing. They're in a lawsuit with the builder, that whole thing. So they're going to rent it rather than selling it at a discount. A good example. So also in recessions, tenants don't behave. They don't pay as agreed. They don't behave as agreed. The vacancies go up, and it just becomes more difficult again to self-manage. And so for all those reasons, laws, real estate recession, economic recession, property management does very well in down times, if you will.
That makes sense. So you're right in the driver's seat then right now.
Yeah, we're amping up marketing. We're rebuilding the website. We're adding branch managers. We're preparing for the tsunami. I believe this recession could be a year, could be 2 years, but how long it lasts, it's a window for us to convince people who are self-managing that they don't have the time or the ability to do it. And we've got 30 local property managers from Apple Valley to Temecula. So we have centralized operations, but we've got a property manager, just like that lead I got in San Clemente. I have 2 property managers that live in San Clemente. I got somebody right down the street from you that can take care of you. So, yeah.
Scott, so we know that we're kind of in an economic recession, but what do you attribute the increase in demand and also the value on real estate within the last few weeks, even with the COVID-19 epidemic?
So it's really interesting because I've been on 3 listing appointments. I feel like I'm a realtor again. What's interesting about this market is, so 80% of the sellers got out of the market. They said, I don't want to risk my health. In Placentia, by the way, I'm in Placentia. I looked, there were like 4 listings right now. Like in a city of 50,000 people, there are 4 listings, in the last 2 weeks, because our average, we have an older population. The city was built in the late 60s, 70s. They don't want anybody in their house. Forget about it. 80% of the sellers pulled out in certain markets, but only 20 or 30% of the buyers pulled out. The ones that lost their job, whatever. So the other 70% are like, whoa, rates are 3%. I want to buy something. So the house we're going to put on the market tomorrow in Placentia, we'll have 2 offers in one day. They want to sell, get out, they're going to Portland. But here's the interesting thing. I was talking to a Redfin agent yesterday on this. Other markets within our market are not doing well. Irvine, terrible. Garden Grove, bad. We took a listing in Garden Grove at market price, and we haven't had a showing. We've had tons of activity on Zillow, but nobody will, because Garden Grove's made up a lot of business owners, small business owners. That's Garden Grove. Irvine, a large Asian population, Chinese. They're not taking a risk for their health. So certain markets, you could swing a dead cat, not find a buyer. Other markets, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Yorba Linda, Placentia, plenty of people out there looking to buy.
So you're saying that it largely could be due to a cultural factor in certain markets?
Cultural and also economic, right? Certain places, they have a different economy, and age of the sellers. Placentia, we just have a lot of older sellers, and they're not putting their home on the market right now, for fear.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
So what makes it hard as a realtor right now, because every recession brings a different, last time we had to learn short sales, right? Oh my God, that was like, I had to learn that whole thing. This time it's every market is different. Generally you sit down with a seller, you say, I have a pretty good idea what the next 3 months looks like, or the next 6 months, maybe even the next year. I have a pretty good idea what's going to happen. I don't think any realtor could sit in front of a buyer, in front of a seller and say, yeah, I know what's going to look like in 3 months. Yeah, I got it nailed. We don't know what rates are going to be in 6 months. We don't know if the virus comes back in 6 months. We don't know all the ramifications, what unemployment's going to be, what, customer. And then, by the way, before this coronavirus even started, I had written a blog that in election years, the market always is goofy because there's so much negative press, right?
Right.
In election year. It's like, and then we have split roll coming on it's still on the ballot, and that's going to have a ton of negative press. If you approve split roll, we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. So even if there wasn't the coronavirus, it would have been a kind of a strange year.
So let's dive into split roll really quickly.
Yeah, there's two big ballot measures every realtor needs to be aware of. So the first one, the easy one, is the one that's sponsored by CAR, and it's the tax portability. So that made the ballot. And it may even be the legislator might approve it without you having to go to the ballot. So that one looks really good, by the way. All the polling says it's going to go through, and that says that you can move up or down and keep your tax base with you. So you don't have to be trapped by the equity in your property. So you've got a client who bought a house for $100,000, it's worth $1 million. Their tax basis is $1,000 a year, and they don't want to sell because they don't want to lose that $1,000, right? Now they can move anywhere in the state, up or down, and they get to keep that $1,000. So we think that's a huge one for our industry. I think it would generate something like 50,000 transactions a year. But the one that's scary is split roll. So split roll, whenever you see a tax right now, I believe, always they should say, I don't care what the tax is, it's a pension tax. it's a pension tax, right? So the state right now is up against it because they have a lot of pension costs, both for teachers, police, fire, you name it, unions. And so the split roll idea was Prop 13 it covers all property. So if you buy a property, commercial or residential, and it goes up in value, you get to retain your tax basis. And so there's always been the argument, well, that's not really fair for commercial. Residential, fine, they can keep it. But why is it that Disney's not being taxed higher, right? Or a lot of these corporations, they transfer, when they sell the building, they won't change the LLC, right? So I sell this building to somebody else, but we don't change the LLC. I just bring in shareholders, so my basis stays the same. So the state believes that, hey, here's an easy way to make $12 billion a year, and let's reassess all commercial real estate. That's commercial, industrial, anything that's non-residential. So the 300 unit apartment building is not reassessed, but the industrial park is. And it has huge ramifications because, for example, my building, this thing's been around since I think 1964. The original family owns this building. It's a strip center. I suspect their tax basis is nothing, almost nothing. If they were to get reassessed, and I'm on triple net, right? So I got to pay for the property tax in my lease. Also, my lease, when it comes up for renewal, they're going to say, hey, I can't let you have this thing for, $2 a foot. It's got to be $2.50 a foot now. Well, then I got to increase my cost. So if I have a burger restaurant, I got to charge more for the burger to make ends meet.
All our food gets more expensive, right? Yeah.
Everything. We're all just going to pass it on to the consumer.
But will this really go? Would we want to put this into effect now, considering everything that has transpired over the last month and a half?
Yeah, I think it really
is it reasonable now?
I think it really hurts its chances. People in a recession don't want to raise taxes. That's the last thing they want to do. They need every penny they can keep their hands on. So I think it helps its defeat. I think a lot of these companies are going to say, look, we're already down on our knees. You want to increase our costs again? And also, what are these buildings worth? The sector in our that got hit the hardest in this recession, if you didn't know, was commercial real estate.
Right.
The REITs are I think trading at 60% of value, right? They're down almost down by 50%. So all these buildings now aren't worth what they're down back to 1982 value. So the recession itself really hammered the values of a lot of commercial real estate. And if there's one thing we're all trying to figure out, what's the post-pandemic, world look like? I think we can all agree that commercial gets hammered. I mean, just gets hammered. I mean, if 24 Fitness files bankruptcy, Neiman Marcus files bankruptcy, Sears, J.C. Penney, you're going to have, how many empty buildings are going to be out there? So I think that the timing means it will probably get defeated, but that doesn't mean they won't try again. The legislature is going to keep. They got a pension bill to pay. It's a big bill. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 billion, and somehow that bill's got to be paid.
I think that's a great point, Scott. And you pretty much answered most of my questions. We've covered kind of where you came from, where you're at right now, and where you think the market's going. What do you think? One last question. Where do you think the role of a realtor is going to look like in the next year to 5 years?
So I always say, here's the good news. Nobody sells by owner. It's just too difficult, too complicated, too big a transaction. It's done very, not infrequently in your life, right? Most people sell their home 3 or 4 or 5 times. So the realtor's not going away. I do believe if you listen to CAR and NAR, 25% of you are going away, though. So I think there could be a real shock here, depending on the severity of the recession. The feeling is they're already telling the local boards to plan on 25% fewer realtors. And the question is, are those the realtors that do 0 deals, or those realtors that do 100 deals? The answer is it's probably the realtors that do 3 or 4 or 5 transactions a year and need to put food on the table. So if sales, right now the market that's going to hit the hardest, we all know, is the high-end market, over $1 million. I don't know if you saw Impact not out of business. They laid everybody off today. Impact was an Alt-M lender.
Yes,
they're gone. Jumbo's almost gone. You better have a relationship with the bank. So the high-end market's going to get hit first. I think the low-end market is going to be better. The kind of the 500,000 to 800,000. That market's going to be great because rates are so low. The question is, what happens when rates go up? They can't stay at 3% next 3 years. So if rates even move to 5%, oh my God, it's terrible, 5%. Then I think you see prices move down in the mid-market, and when prices go down, sales go down, realtors go away. So the realtors that can survive this market. It's funny. I read a book by Simon Sinek, and you have to have a cause, right? That's the thing that gets you up in the morning. What gets you up in the morning? And our cause here at this company is that we liberate realtors from the real estate income roller coaster. And I think you got to be ready for the real estate income roller coaster. But the ones that can survive it can create relationships. There's always a boom after the bust, right? There's going to be a huge pent up in particular, Orange County. We have a much older, a lot of older owners, right?
Right.
And that tax portability goes through. How many little old ladies in Placentia who have an $800,000 house can sell and move to
It's massive.
Murrieta, for 400,000 or wherever they want to go? So I think you're gonna. I think once we get through this bumpiness in the next, 6 months to a year, maybe a year and a half, then there'll be a boom because there's just a lot of pent up demand. And I think that you're going to see a lot of, I think there is no new construction in Orange County. Okay, there's infill, building condos here, townhomes there, great park, over $1 million. There's just really no new housing for sale. The new housing being built in Orange County is all rentals. That's where all the money's going right now, is rentals. And so I just think there's a shortage of housing. And as we get through this and unemployment decreases and gets down to 5%, and it could take a couple years, then the realtors are here. If 25% go away, that means 25% more business, the ones that are still here. You just got to get to your realtors who are listening to this. You've got to get from here to there. I will tell a story because I won't take all day. But when the last recession, there was one story that really carried me, and it was hard. It was that recession was '08 to what, really '07 to 2011. That was 4 years. And I think you know the Stockdale paradox. Have we talked about it?
No.
Okay, so it really there are people who are going to struggle out there, and they're going to suffer, and you're going to say, "Why am I going through this suffering?" I'm going to give the Stockdale paradox. Famous story. James Stockdale was a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, and he was shot
Uh-huh.
down. And they put him in like the nastiest prison, and he survived that prison something like 5 or 6 years. While he was in that prison, a lot of other people came, and they didn't survive. They died. And when Stockdale was finally released and they interviewed him, it was built, I think, Good to Great, whatever, in that book. They asked him, well, how is it that you made it? He goes, that was easy. He goes, the key thing was, he goes, I embraced the experience. I
Mm.
didn't deny this experience. I knew I was in prison. I knew it sucked, but I knew this experience would make me a better person. I never lost hope. I knew I'd get out, but I knew I had to embrace the experience while I was there. And they said, well, okay, that explains you. What happened to the other people? He goes, that was easy. They'd get there in March, and they'd say, we're going to be out by July 4th. And July 4th would come and go, and they say, we're going to be out by Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving would come and go, and they'd say, we're going to be out by Christmas. He goes, they died of a broken heart. You cannot be an optimist in markets like this. You can't say, oh, October is going to be back to normal. And it's not back to normal. You're like, well, it'll be back to normal by January. And January comes and goes. You embrace it now. You build your relationships. You become an expert in the marketplace. I would say you adapt. We encourage our agents to take on new skills like property management, like
Uh-huh.
association management. But you don't be an optimist. That I know we all realtors are optimists. Don't be an optimist. As a one time, be a realist, be a pragmatist, embrace this market, and you just got to get from point A to point B, and that's the hardest challenge.
Scott, thank you so much for
You got it,
those
man.
parting words of wisdom and that great story. I appreciate you coming on today, and thank you so much, everyone. If you could subscribe at the end, and thank you so much. Have a great day. All right.